The Rock wanted to wait until you said everything you had to say, so The Rock knew exactly the kind of man he's dealing with at the Royal Rumble. And now it's become crystal clear to The Rock. You are straight up delusional. You keep mentioning that number 414. 414 days you've been WWE champion. That's incredible. Incredible. The real number, it ain't 414, Jack. The real number that haunts your dreams is 20. 20 excuses running around your mind right now. 20 hairs standing up on your straight edge scrotum. Because you know, in 20 days, you're going to be defending that WWE Championship against The Rock, which means in 20 days, you know, The Rock knows, they know. In 20 days, time's up. You want to change. You wanted a revolution. You say that when you became WWE Champion, you rejected the people. No. The people rejected you. You talked about change. You couldn't do it. You talked about revolution. You couldn't do it. You came out and you promised everybody ice cream bars. Ice cream bars for everybody. And you couldn't even do that. You couldn't provide ice cream if the Dairy Queen, Carvel, and Cookiepuss drove an ice cream truck straight up your ass. You see, Punk, it's not just that The Rock is back. No, it's why The Rock is back. Here's why The Rock is back, for 3 reasons. The Rock is back to entertain them. The Rock is back to stop you. And after 10 long years, The Rock is back to win that. The Rock has watched the show. Every Monday Night Raw, watching you. You're deceiving, you're backpedaling, you're lying. The Rock would watch the TV and he'd scream at the TV, good God Almighty, somebody tell this man they respect him, just so he'd shut his punk ass up. And while you're at it, somebody show this man a doctor. Is there a doctor in the house? Because a man who claims that he's straight edge, he's running around here looking exactly like Popeye on crack. Look at you. Punk eye, the crackhead. All you need right now is a little thing in the mouth. Little toot toot. CM Punk, you have one of the most creative and innovative minds in the history of the WWE. The Rock knows it. You fail to use it. You became WWE champion, and you also became the biggest jerk the world has ever seen. The Rock can look you in the eye and tell you this with all passion and with all heart. When The Rock is here, don't you ever say the people don't matter. They matter. They've always mattered. You're the one that doesn't matter.
Oh, I matter. I'm the most successful.
It doesn't matter if you matter. The only thing that matters is that you understand. You get it straight in your head that at Royal Rumble, there ain't no way. And The Rock means no way you're going to stop The Rock from becoming WWE champion.
Unlike a lot of people, I'm glad you're back. I don't care what your schedule is. I don't care if you work here 16 days a year, 365 days a year. You could be Santa Claus and have his schedule. You could 1 day a year. I'll still kick your ass. I don't care how many movies you film every year. I know how hard that schedule probably is, but every time you come back, whenever you decide to grace us with your presence, I'm going to kick your ass. Because this isn't Candyland. I'm like nobody you've ever faced before. You can make fun of the color of my t-shirt, and you can talk about pie, and you can sing songs, and you can rhyme, and you can do your tired, lame-ass shtick. I just want you to know that come Royal Rumble, and you have about 3 weeks to realize this, I'm gonna kick your ass, because I'm the best in the world. I'm the best thing going today. I'm the best guy you've ever stepped foot in the ring with. And you need to understand, congratulations, Rock. You just graduated from the kiddie table, but you just bit off more than you can chew. You're playing Little League with your little insults and your rhymes and your millions and millions and your finallys. And I'm in the big leagues, and I'm swinging for the fence. You need to understand that your little jabs and your insults, it's all kiddie games. You can't leave a mark on the champ's face. Come Royal Rumble, understand when you step in the ring, your arms are just too short to box with God.
You may think that The Rock is boxing with God, but The Rock knows for a fact you are going one-on-one with the Great One. Don't you think for one single solitary second that The Rock doesn't know how bad you are, how dangerous you are, how tough you are. The Rock knows that. 414 days, The Rock knows. The last time we were in the middle of this ring, you hit The Rock with a GTS and you knocked him out cold as a block of ice. The Rock didn't forget it. You hurt The Rock, you embarrassed The Rock. He said it before, he'll say it again. In 20 days, time's up. But here's the thing. This is what The Rock wants you to do from now until then. The Rock wants you to go home and think about the next 20 days. As a matter of fact, The Rock wants you to go home and look in the mirror. As a matter of fact, The Rock wants you to go home, look in the mirror, and strip naked. That's what The Rock wants you to do. Go ahead and look at yourself. Don't concentrate on your Cookiepuss. Turn around and look at your backside. Turn around, look at your backside, and let's try and find a small space on this body that's not covered in ugly tattoos, because The Rock wants you to get 2 more tattoos, some more tattoos. Here's the thing. Go ahead, on your left butt cheek, The Rock wants you to get a tattoo of a big fat M&M. And then add a Snickers, a Milky Way, a Mounds. You can't have an Almond Joy, because unlike you, Almond Joys actually have nuts. And then on your right butt cheek, this is what The Rock wants you to do. The Rock wants you to get the tattoo of The Rock size 15 shoe. So you will have a lifetime reminder of how badly The Rock is going to kick your candy ass at Royal Rumble. Rock bottom! If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
WBCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
The Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, ooh yeah.
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Fearon.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Really? Yeah!
Isn't it great when WWE actually brings their A game for about 16% of Monday Night Raw? Hello and welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. We have a ton of stuff to talk about. Of course, The Rock back on Monday Night Raw as he leads the way to the Royal Rumble coming up in 2 weeks. He'll be challenging CM Punk for the WWE Championship. We've got new names announced in the 30-man over-the-top rope Royal Rumble match itself. TNA has the Genesis pay-per-view tomorrow. I've got my predictions certain to go wrong coming up a little bit later this hour. Hopefully I can do as well, if not better, in 2013 than I did in 2012. Guessing 104 right out of 162. Do the math, that's 104 and 58. 2 better than the Phillies a couple of years ago with their 102 and 60 or something along those lines. I don't know. It's been a while since the Phillies have won. It's kind of not exactly fresh in my memory. But huge TNA news to kick things off. They have cut their annual pay-per-views by a whopping 66%. That's right. TNA has announced it will be holding only 4 pay-per-view events in 2013 as opposed to the 12 that they've had in years past. They're going from 1 a month to 1 roughly every 3 months. From a press release, they said the 52 annual episodes of Impact Wrestling will lead to 4 epic pay-per-view events, commencing with Genesis January 13th, Lockdown March 10th, Slammiversary June 9th, and Bound for Glory October 13th. And then Dixie Carter goes on to say, the pay-per-view industry has changed so much in the last decade. The traditional pay-per-view wrestling model needed to evolve, and we believe this strategy will positively impact not only the pay-per-view events, but the weekly television programming as well. Translation, TNA's losing a ton of money on these pay-per-views, so by having fewer of them, they will lose money less often and maybe make them special enough that they might make some money. That's at least, I think, the plan. Now, I'm not necessarily getting into Dixie Carter's head, but that's how I'd see that. And it's kind of funny because I was talking a little bit about this last week, and I was going to throw out there, if you were Vince McMahon or Dixie Carter, how would you structure your pay-per-views? Maybe she listened to me here last week, Dixie did. I don't know. Will Vince McMahon follow suit? She actually went further than I thought she was going to. If it were up to me, I would have gone 6, but I'm okay with reducing it to 4 like she did. I was going to go 6 per company just for evenness sake. And the ones that I would have kept to be a little bit different than what she did, I would have nixed Genesis. That would have been out. So, too, would have been Against All Odds, which, yeah, I don't know. Somebody's got like a Phil Collins thing going on in TNA. I don't know what that's about. But Victory Road would have been out. Hardcore Justice, that theme pay-per-view, that's out for me. No Surrender and Turning Point as well. I would have kept Lockdown, moved it into February. I would have had Sacrifice in May, Slammiversary sometime in June. Maybe in late August, TNA Destination X, and then Bound for Glory in October, and Final Resolution for December. So that way, every couple of months, every 7-8 weeks, you've got pay-per-views going. That way, it's not too much necessarily, and that would run opposite with the 6 WWE pay-per-views that I'd keep. Royal Rumble in January, WrestleMania, of course, in late March, early April. The June pay-per-view that always seems to be scrounging to find a name, I'd move Money in the Bank into sometime in June. I know some people would say bring back the King of the Ring. I don't know. Single elimination tournaments in single night pay-per-views haven't exactly done well, especially those 16-manners like at Survivor Series 98 and, of course, WrestleMania 4. If you remember how marathon-like those were, I don't know if you'd want to necessarily go back to that. SummerSlam in August, Night of Champions in late September, and then going to Survivor Series in November. So that's how I'd go. I'd go 12 pay-per-views between the two organizations, but now with Dixie Carter cutting it to 4, I may have to rethink this, but that's how I'd do it. How would you do it? Let me know. 215-949-3232 or toll free at 888-922-2149. Also this hour, TNA finally cleaning up their webpage a little bit and removing a profile for someone who hasn't been on TV in, about 8 or 9 months. And another TNA individual who has announced that he will not be re-signing now that his contract is up. We'll talk a little bit about that. Raw turns 20. At least it officially turned 20 yesterday. The 20th anniversary episode will be this coming Monday. And the only advertising we've gotten for it is the return of Dr. Shelby. Come on, WWE. At least throw some sort of a bone out there. Make people want to tune in other than the fact that it's the 20th anniversary of Raw. I'm sure that's great on its own, but you have to realize not as many people are watching now as they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, heck, even 15 years ago. You got to find a way to bring those people back in and just kind of, I guess, the old tell your friends mentality may not necessarily work in this case. But we'll throw out a little bit later some facts and figures from when Raw debuted 20 years ago yesterday, including things like the price of a gallon of gas, the price of stamps, things that you look back at them only 20 years ago and you go, man, things have definitely changed. And just some other fun things we'll throw out in there. Also, I'll talk a little bit about my experience at the TNA house show this past Saturday night when they came to Philadelphia. I'll talk a little bit about that. Lots to get to say the least. And, well, Fred Flintstone no longer on the Fruity Pebbles box. That's right. John Cena now is. I'll get more into that story coming up a little bit as well. But so far, hanging very patiently, let's get to Nick, who's been hanging on from all the way out west. An early morning for him out in California. Nick, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Yo, thank you. I'm really excited about this thing with TNN and Hulk Hogan and Bubba.
Think you might be the only one there, Nick.
Wonder how that's going to go down. It looked like he was foaming at the mouth, Hulk Hogan was. He's always been my idol as a wrestler, and I always enjoyed watching him. But he didn't look too too good there in the ring Thursday.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for a match from Hogan, and I mean, thanks so much for chiming in. If you're looking for a match from Hogan at this point, you got to realize the man's 50. He'll be 60 years old later this year, and he's talked about on numerous occasions his knee replacements. He's had a hip replaced. He's had like 8 or 9 back surgeries now. So, if you're looking for the Hulk Hogan of 1987 that body slammed Andre the Giant, you're not going to get it. Plain and simple. Time kind of does that to people, unfortunately. Time and obviously injuries in a business like this. As far as the storyline, and we've got a little bit to delve into that. I've got the audio clip coming out of our first time out that'll talk a little bit more about what's going on there with Hulk Hogan and Bully Ray and Brooke Hogan. The storyline that, I don't know. It seems to have the most legs in TNA and is not really saying all that much. I'll just I'll leave it at that. All right. Before we go to break, let me quick talk about the TNA house show experience from last week. TNA came to Philadelphia this past Saturday. They were at the Tower Theater up in Upper Darby. Up in 69th Street there. And I'd never been there before, so it was certainly an interesting experience. And if you have been there, you'll realize that it's kind of like a concert hall almost. So walking in, you go, wait a minute, something's a little different. It's not your standard stadium theater in the round type atmosphere. In this case, the ring and the entranceway were both essentially up on stage. So it was almost like you were watching a wrestling play in a sense. Or wrestling, well, hopefully not musical, but you get the idea. You're watching everything unfold up on stage as opposed to surrounding and engulfing everything. It's just it's at least I guess in that regard, you're not missing anything because it all had to be adjusted so that anytime anybody went outside the ring, they didn't necessarily go behind the ring too much because it obviously obscured everyone's view because they're all looking from one direction. But yeah, that I thought was something different. I don't know if it's something I'd necessarily go to, but it worked for a one-shot deal. There were 6 matches on the card. Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez beating Robbie E and Robbie T to retain the TNA tag titles. Tara, along with Jesse, defeated Mickie James to hang on to the Knockouts title. And there was an open challenge issued by Jesse, who refers to himself as Mr. Pectacular. And Bully Ray, who in storyline was suspended, but the Philadelphia crowd didn't mind Bully Ray not adhering to it. And since Hogan was obviously nowhere to be found, I guess out of sight, out of mind, something along those lines. But Bully Ray defeated Jesse in that open challenge. Also, Rob Van Dam beating Kazarian to retain the X Division title. They also had a little thing during intermission. They had noted that Earl Hebner has, in his career, now refereed over 100,000 matches. And they had him come out, and he lifted his referee shirt to kind of show off that, yes, there is an Earl Hebner T-shirt, and it's basically a referee shirt that says, "Damn right I did," referring to the numerous chants he was getting over the years of "You screwed Brett," referring to the Montreal screw job back in '97. So he played off of that a little bit. He had that shirt. He pulled out a pair of the old Bret Hart sunglasses, did some of Bret's mannerisms. And they had a little deal where you could get one of those shirts for $10 and get it signed by both Earl Hebner and his son Brian Hebner, who were both referees for TNA. So I thought that was kind of cool and interesting. And then Devon and DOC from the Aces and Eights, they beat Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe in a tag team match. Obviously, there were lots of ECW references throughout the night between Van Dam, Bully Ray, because it's Philadelphia. These things happen. And there was another brief intermission so they could set up the cage for a 3-way cage match between Jeff Hardy, Bobby Roode, and Austin Aries, with James Storm as the special guest referee. And Hardy, of course, won that to retain the TNA title, and then he hung out for some pictures and autographs after the show, but I had to make my way back here to do the DJ gigs, so I left at the end of the show. All in all, not too bad of a show, a pretty raucous crowd, maybe about 1,000 people. Some say a little bit less. I don't know. I wasn't exactly keeping head counts at the door or anything like that. But all in all, not too bad of a show, I think. They tend to do well when they come here to Philly. This is their first house show, I believe, here, at least the first that I've attended. Also went to Bound for Glory a couple years ago and then Lockdown a couple years before that. So certainly some great stuff. Anyway, after rambling about that a little bit, telling you about that, not necessarily rambling, up against it here, we'll take care of a timeout. We'll talk a little bit about the Hulkster and what's going on with him and Bully Ray and daughter Brooke Hogan. An episode of Hogan Knows Best basically playing out on Impact this past Thursday. Plus, in case you missed it last night, we have a new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I'll tell you about that as well on the other side. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.